Curtis coming at you from Ace Per Head Studios, once again covering the 2021 NFL season. Going to stick with my Dolphins. I know I got some other stuff coming. I got some stuff for the Washington football team, some stuff for the Bills, some film studies. But from reading all the comments from many Fin fans of the last two videos, I realized that people kept saying, what's going on? How do we get here? And I got the feeling from some other comments, people saying, well, this person's responsible, this person's responsible. And I realized that there are plenty of fans that understand the history that got us here. But I think there's a lot of fans that don't. I think a lot of fans don't understand that there was a pivotal moment last season that is kind of overlooked a little bit because of this and that. So I'm going to try to get to the whole thing in a very ordered way. It's going to be a little long. And someone in the comments said, this guy talks so slow that if you put it 1.5, it sounds like he's talking normal. I didn't realize I talk slow until I put it at 1.5. I said, oh, man, I guess I do talk slow. I think maybe I'm trying to get things in my head, trying to get it out accurately. So I'm going to try to talk a little faster, and I'm going to put hyperlinks for the different kind of chapters to this story. And it is a story. It's a very interesting story. And we have to remember, sometimes we forget, football is not just about points and wins and losses. This has all the makings of a grand tale. There's heroes and goats. There's miraculous turnarounds. These are stories. Part of the beauty of the NFL football is it is a story unlike other sports. Simulated war. But it's the tales. All of us love stories. And there's so many stories. And the story I'm about to tell is a great one in the sense it has all the makings of a Homeric tale or Shakespearean tragedy or play, or even a Sir Arthur Conan detective novel. It's not going to be my making. There'll be a little conjecture in the middle. But this is a really interesting story that tells us how we got to where we are now. And that's the truth. History is how we come to the present. Every little choice we make this way or that builds piles for success and failure, wins and losses. We are today because of what we've done in the past. And sometimes, got some thunder over here, and sometimes we regret the things we've done, but we can't change them. So I'm going to do this. Name of this thesis is with Flores, we have to keep the Ross effect in mind. Okay? So like I said, there'll be hyperlinks for those who already got that part down and just speed you through because it's going to be a little bit of a long tail. The idea of why we are where we are needs to have context applied. Because it's context that helps us understand why people do things, why situations are the way they are. And going through the history and leading up to this pivotal moment will bring much needed knowledge to some who don't really understand and context as well. So I want to start off with the Phins and Excalibur. One of my favorite stories is the Arthurian mythos. I've talked about this in the past. Excalibur is a modern movie of it. I love that. And I'm going to tell this little anecdote because it can lay over the story I'm going to tell you. And it's going to help bring clarity to what the situation is. And it's going to help, even if you're a Fin fan and you're unhappy, you can be like, wow, what a tale. So there's this, in this moment, Uther Pendragon is the father of King Arthur. He grew up in a very tumultuous time where everyone was fighting for power and there was no peace in the land. But this is how you had to be to survive. Be ruthless. Take what you want. So he's taken what he's won. He's gotten the sword Excalibur, sword of power. He's become king to rule the land. And he sees one of the dukes who he was fighting with submits to him. But he's got Igraine, his wife, the most beautiful woman in the land. So Uther, raised in the time of violence, taking what you want, he takes Igraine. Through magic manipulation, ends up killing the king. At a point, Arthur's born, and he looks at Arthur. Some more fun done. He looks at Arthur, and he says, I've been doing everything wrong. All I want to do is raise this boy. I'm done. I just want to be king. I don't want more violence. I don't want nothing. I don't want anything. I just want to raise this child. I want peace. I'm tired of blood. So Merlin comes to him, and he says, no, you're not the one to unite the kingdom. Everyone is out to get you. He says, no, I'm king. I've got to this point. He says, you killed the king. You took his wife. Now no one trusts you. And his kingdom is ripped from him. He's killed. And eventually, you know the story, Arthur takes over. But then Uther's sins come back to destroy Arthur's kingdom. Take a big piece of it. So, I say all that. Now we'll get into the Ross effect, the Game of Thrones. I'm going to stay with the fantasy, whole fantasy thing. That's my jammy, as the modern youngsters call it, I think. So, Parcells, he's running the show. He's an epic figure. Huizinga brought him in. Stephen Ross takes over, early part of his tenure. Comes in. Parcells and Ross, they don't get along. Parcells, as said in his book, he's a nice guy. I like him. He spends a lot of money, but he tries to do things Hollywood. I couldn't be a part of that. And he was waiting for a new contract, and he was getting worried that Ross was going to stab him in the back. Now, Ross was intimidated about Parcells. Ross, for whatever you say about him, he's a football fan, he's a Dolphin fan, a real legitimate fan. And he's like a bookworm, he's like a nice, quiet dude. He's a billionaire, obviously he's got some skeletons, he can't get $1 billion without skeletons. But generally speaking, he's a nice, amiable guy who's quiet. And who wouldn't be intimidated by Bill Parcells, especially with this kind of person, and you're a fan of football. So he never offered him this contract. Parcells thought he was going to stab in the back. Ross was just intimidated, didn't know what to do. He didn't want to screw it up. They break ways because of miscommunication. Now Ross is in charge on his own. He's got Ireland. He's got Sperano, leftovers of the Parcells regime. He's running the show. He doesn't know what to do. He's looking for the next, football guru to take over his business because he just wants to win. He wants to have a good business. He wants it to grow, and he wants his team to win and be the guy to do it. Like any fan. So, the next big moment, Ross gets caught in the TMZ moment with Ireland sneaking on the plane to go meet Harbaugh to replace Sperano. All over ESPN. Fallout is tremendous. Ireland is like, he's now reviled in the organization and probably among his peers. Ross the same way, trying to stab Sperano in the back. Say what you want about Sperano, but people love this guy. The players played for him. They didn't care. They played hard. They loved this guy. The organization loved this guy. He was part of a coaching fraternity. The coaches were furious. How can you do that? Ross had cut his own throat. Now no one trusts you. So they get rid of Sperano after a really cheesy contract extension. It's like a payoff. Like, I'm sorry, I screwed up. He has a couple mil. But eventually they fire him anyway. So they're looking for coaches. They go to Jeff Fisher. And they're like, that was a primary guy they wanted. Fisher's like, I ain't gonna be part of this, man. It's like, well, what am I gonna do? When first things go south, you're gonna be caught in a DMZ moment trying to stab me in the back. He's like, nah, I'm going to Rams. So the candidates come down to Ireland wanted McCoy. Todd Bowles, who was the interim coach, they didn't want him. I like Todd Bowles. I think he would have been a good coach. So Ross, who's really in charge now, and he's screwed the pooch, as they say, he sees young Don Shula in Joe Philbin. And he goes with young Don Shula. As if there aren't any more two different people in the world than Queasy and Iron Jaw Don Shula. But that's the way they go. So next, we get the Richie Incognito thing, which further cements the dysfunctionality in the franchise. We get Jeff Ireland in a civil war against Dawn Aponte, the money lady, and Joe Philbin. It's Aponte and Phil and Queasy versus Ireland. And they're battling it out. Things are getting crazy. Good picks are being missed. It's just getting wild, you know? Screw-ups everywhere because there's so much infighting. Game of Thrones. So eventually they get rid of Ireland. They bring in Hickey. Doesn't go well. Queasy gets let go. They got Tannenbaum. They bring Tannenbaum in from New York to be the CEO. Moving pieces all over the place. No stability. This guy's got power. This guy's got power, but no one's really got power. So now they're looking for a new coach. Mike Shanahan's the big one. You know, he's the big name, quote unquote. But his Super Bowl days are long gone. His name was kind of like destroyed. Not destroyed, but he became not a desirable coaching prospect after his time with Washington. So, you know, he was looking for a job. He just, you know, desperate to get a gig. Mike Smith, Doug Marrone, who had fallout with the Bills. He had won a 9-7 record. Then he wanted money. They split ways. He was the O-line coach for the Jags. He thought he was going to be a hot item, but he wasn't. Dan Campbell was the interim coach. Not much experience. Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, Terrell Austin. Detroit Lions, might I say anymore. And running backs coach from the Bills, Anthony Lynn. All good coaches. But this was like the B and C squad. Real candidates no longer wanted to work in Miami. There was really no pieces. There was dysfunctionality for so long, and Ross was known as the backstabber. So they end up going with young Don Shula Part 2, Adam Gase. As if, again, there's no two different people in the world than Taco Rolling Eyes Gase and Steel Jaw Don Shula. But, so Ross, desperate to get the hot candidate because he wants to win. There's no reason for it. Yeah, I'm short of money, but at his point, you know, he's got $10 billion or something at this point. He just wants to win. He's a fan. So Gase really doesn't want to work with the Dolphins too much. He's got all the opportunities, the hot item. Peyton Manning's backing him. So Ross is kind of like afraid he's going to lose him. He says, I'll give you control of game day roster. He's like, oh, really? All right, I'll take that. So now you got CEO Tannenbaum, who's got control of roster. They move Chris Grier up to GM. He's got control of roster. And then you got Gase. He's got control of the game day roster. So nobody knows who picked what, who did what, whatever. It's a three-headed snake biting each other. There's just total dysfunction at its highest peak. But I want to lay something out here. It's not because Ross is a bad guy. This is how businesses run with committees, and we find out and break the glass. You know, you separate power, and people are trying to. This is how businesses run. But that's not how football's run. At least not in the first and second stage. In the last stage, it's cutthroat. Everybody's trying to find their way off the ship so they don't have a bad name and can't get a gig. But in phase one, the installation, and phase two, in the building and the trying to make it, it's the warrior's way, and there has to be honor. There has to be leadership. There has to be a hierarchy of authority. You cannot run it like a business in phase one and phase two. Phase three, man, everybody's like trying to do their thing, you know, make themselves look. It was his fault, but everybody knows that. Sick and ship, everybody's getting off. But phase one and phase two, loyalty is key, and order is key for the Warriors way. Ross just wanted to bring back the glory years. He was doing what he had been taught, what he knew, business, and he was being successful. He was running it like a business. So now we'll get to the rise of Chris Grier. Chris Grier is the longest tenured main character in our current day Dolphin organization. From 2000 to 2002, Grier served as an area scout for the Miami Dolphins. 2003, Grier was promoted to national scout and assistant director of the college scouting. He held that position to 2007 and was promoted director of college scouting. He was highly influential from 2007 on. So from 2007 to 2016, 9 years, he was a major player in how we picked in the draft. Now, nothing against Chris Grier, but how'd you like those drafts? So, Tannenbaum, he's there with Grier and Gase. They're all battling out, trying to, get high card probably to tell Ross, look, I picked this guy that did this, just trying to keep your job, trying to win. So Grier's main moment of this phase is when he pounds his fist on the table and he says, 2018, draft Minkah Fitzpatrick or fire me. Ross says, hey, why don't we just trade back and draft Lamar Jackson? Draft Minkah Fitzpatrick or fire me. How do you think that ended up with Chris Grier looking? Mark in the book, wouldn't you say? So Ross says, all right. He's just looking for somebody, a football guy to trust. You know what I mean? He's just looking for that guy to lead him in this business. So he says, okay, you do it your way. Anyway, he gets off Grier. Gase starts freaking out, screaming at Ross, I know more about football than you. So eventually he gets to a point, Ross loses his mind. He says, we got to fire Gase. We got to let Tannenbaum go. He has the big interview for the public, and he's, to his credit, Ross showed great humility and great wisdom. He says, I've screwed it all up. I came in here, I wanted to succeed, I ran it like a business, I made lots of mistakes, I thought I could use money, I tried to do it this way, I tried to do it that way. I totally screwed it up. And if I keep doing this way and expecting different results, I'm insane. Because I'm out. I'm out of all football operations. I want nothing to do with it. I hand total control and total power over to Chris Grier. He's like, I just want to win. Hey, I figure this guy is 78 years old at this point. He's a Dolphins fan. He really is. He wants to win. So to his credit, he gets out, totally removes himself, hands all the power over to Chris Grier. They go for a coaching search. Has slim pickings. Nobody wants to go here. Ross has got his history. Dolphins don't have any real talent. There's no real top-end quarterback. Tannehill actually ends up showing to be something, but at that point, he's bad knees. Chris Grier's an unknown. A lot of people weren't obviously too high on his drafts. So they had to go to the C squad, maybe the D squad, C and D squad. Doesn't mean they're not talented, but you're not getting the pick of the litter. I would bet that Brian Flores was like, I'm hired? Really? So he tries to cobble together this staff for a franchise that no one wants to be a part of, with an owner that people are very suspicious about, with a GM that no one really is like, oh, this is... In football, if you attach yourself to somebody and they fail, through osmosis, you're a failure, and it hurts your chances in the future. So many people didn't want any part of this. He had to really just kind of dig down to the bottom. He gets lucky, though. Jim Caldwell, head coach Long-time offensive coordinator, just a guy that knows the game, super experienced, super respected. He says, I'll be a part. I'm going to help you, young Chad O'Shea, and your quarterback. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to help you. It was a big win. I thought, oh, man, this is great. This is huge. This is big. This is big. They get Flaherty, offensive line coach, some success, well-established, a lot of experience, kind of like a hit-and-miss kind of, but big piece. Those were the two big pieces he brought in for his staff. The rest, they were all the guppies. So unfortunately, Brian Flores lets Flaherty go 4 days into the season, into training camp, I believe. He wouldn't play the young rookies. This is something that obviously he believed in. He had a relationship with Chris Grier. They both seemed to be on the same page pretty much. I guess they wanted to go that cheaper route, young guy route. So they get rid of him. And then Caldwell gets sick, gets some kind of disease. I don't know what he got, but he had to get off the ship. Medical reasons. So now they're back to the old guppies. And they had hired Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, as their quarterback. And I had written an article saying, this is good, but it's going to screw the tank. A lot of good quarterbacks coming out. You had, Burrow, Herbert, and Tua. Tua wasn't even injured. I was like, this is going to screw the tank. I liked it. I was a little concerned. I didn't really know Fitzpatrick at that point. But I was like, all right, give them a chance to win, because right now this is going to be the worst. They could go 0-16. So they go into the season. Chris Grier is now firmly on the throne. He's got his man Flores, he had connections with. He's running the show. They got rid of Flaherty because he wouldn't do what they wanted. Fortunately, they lost Caldwell. Looking really bad. The tank is on. Tank for Tua, tank for Tua, tank for Tua. I was getting furious, man. My wife is from another country. She knows baseball and soccer. She'd seen me play a little bit. She knew I loved the game. When we first got married, she was, so, I want to watch games with you. I see you go out. I want to watch. I said, yeah, man, great. Come on, babe. I'll teach you the game. This is what I want. Fortunately, it was 2005, 2006, Dolphins sucking. And they had the one win season. She was like, I'm tired of this. I don't know. This game's so complicated. I don't know it. No one's winning. Everyone's miserable. You're miserable. I'm out. I'm done. She hasn't really watched any games. She attempted for 15 minutes a couple times. But after that, forget it. She had been there every single game from beginning to end. Now I'm done. My kids, were like, Dolphins lose, Daddy? No, they won. She's like, they won? They won? It was I just told them that we won lotto, So I was sick of losing. I said, screw the tank, screw the top pick. Fitzpatrick's starting to show something. His team's starting to win. I don't want this. Flores, I thought he was going to tank with Washington. Then he bounced back. He started winning. I'm like, I like this. Screw the tank. Tired of losing. So we get to week 17, big win. Pull off that big win against the Patriots. Oh, that felt so good. It's like, this is great, man. This is great. Flores ain't a tanker. He's talked about team first, winning. He's a man of commitment. He ain't going to tank, because if he's going to tank, he's going to tank now. This is the time to tank. If he ain't tanking, that's who he is. And finally, somebody with character on his miserable team. Gase had no character. Philbin was all over the place. Nice guy, but I was tired of that. I was tired of all that stuff. Flores was my guy at that point. Man of honor, a warrior, wants to win. So then I get a first shock. We're in the off season. I hear Chad O'Shea got fired. What? What happened? I felt like the rug was pulled out underneath me. I heard, hearing players were saying it was a little too complicated. Got rid of him. Oh, man. Next thing I know, they hired Shane Gailey. And, pieces came together. I was down, and then I understood. Shane Gailey is a well-respected, well-known, well-accomplished football guy. He's been a head coach 3 times, 4 times, 3 times, I don't know. And it made sense because he had been with Fitzpatrick twice with the Jets and the Bills. So I was like, all right, Flores ain't crazy. He got rid of O'Shea because he had Gailey in the wings. Gailey, 2002 was the offensive coordinator for the Dolphins. He tried to become the coach in 2006. Instead, they went with Cam Cameron. So this was his 3rd attempt. Came out of retirement. He was the first real prime coordinator that actually wanted to be part of the Miami Dolphins. I mean, Caldwell was like a backdrop guy, but this was somebody who was taking an active part, putting a name on it, being involved. I guess Flores really showed something. People are like, there's a little respect back to the Dolphins. All right, I'll come work with you guys. And also Fitzpatrick, Fitzpatrick had been screwed a couple times. He knew it. He'd been screwed with them. So it was like a way of maybe sticking to the Jets, maybe sticking to the Bills, getting yourself that 3rd chance with the Dolphins, helping your man Fitzpatrick, being part of this young, hot Flores guy, maybe something new, So he took a risk and went to the den of snakes. So now the big draft is coming. Gailey knows I'm here. They're going to draft a quarterback. Fitzpatrick has 1 season to make good to get to the playoffs. I get a chance to be a part of that with this guy. I get a chance to, ride that ship to the end. And then, next year they'll put the rookie in. They knew Burrow was gone with the 1st overall pick. Cincinnati's not that crazy. So, for all intent and purposes, it looked like it was going to be Tua. A wild shot at Herbert, but most likely it was going to be Tua. So he was understood to all this. Very, very clear. So the big draft starts coming. And this is where we're going to start getting into the heated part. Okay? So I read a lot of the comments and people were saying, this is Ross wanted it. Maybe. But after going through this, maybe it's something different. Now, dummies, normal people like me and probably most of you guys, we just talk. Mostly, once in a while we pay attention to what we're saying, but for the most part, we're just like yammering. We're not trained to control our talk in public. But billionaires, these football players, they're trained by staffs on how to say things. You listen to Brian Flores and Chris Grier and it's football talk. Anytime somebody goes off script, people are like, what? So when we get real statements from people in power, in celebrity, and in the limelight, either they totally screwed up or they meant to say it. Really meant to say it on purpose so the public could consume it. So as going into the 2020 draft, Ross says, he liked Tua. He liked Tua before the injury. But he said, I like Tua before the injury, but I'm concerned about his health. He doesn't say that for nothing. That was put out there for a reason. He was into Joe Burrow. He wanted the Dolphins to try to trade up. And the rumor is, the word on the street is they tried to trade up to get Burrow, but were rebuffed. Okay? Albert Bree reported that Dan Marino wanted Herbert. There was a little bit of controversy, who wanted who. Staff, who knows? Who knows what anybody else really wanted? because we only know those two players right now. And I'm not saying this to like say, oh, Tua sucks, we should have gone this. None of that. I'm just trying to get the motivation of the players so as we get into the heat, the heart of the story, it will start being clearer. So they draft Tua, 5th overall, as we all know. And Chris Grier comes out, Albert Breer, the same guy reported that Dan Marino wanted Herbert, in SI. And Chris Grier, if it's at all possible, says less than Brian Flores. I mean, he'll talk for an hour but say nothing. But in this article, he came out and expressed something very concrete, which means he meant to say it. He told Albert Breer that very few people within the organization knew his intentions and that he explored multiple scenarios, including trading up in the draft. But Tagovailoa was his target. Was his target. His. And he went out to SI to let everybody know that. Because already Ross had said, I wanted Burrow, was concerned about his health. Marino was out there by saying, I want Herbert. Flores made it clear. He was the guy making decisions. He was looking to trade up, but he was looking to trade up for Tagovailoa. That was his guy. So you go into the season, little bumpy start, but then you start picking up. Dolphins start winning. The offense starts coming together. Flores starts cobbling together this group of people, and we start seeing something. Burrow's doing good. All of a sudden, Herbert comes in, starts doing well. Burrow, Herbert doing well. Tua is sitting on the bench. So now, Dolphins are starting to make a legitimate run with Fitzpatrick. And then we get one of these blips on the radar. The biggest blip on the radar I have ever seen from this group. And that's Brian Flores. As I said, Brian Flores, you could take every single video interview from this guy, mash them together, and you might get 10 legitimate actual statements of something of relevance that aren't like football speak and deflections and, chasing the tails, He comes out and says, if I was Tua's father, I wouldn't play him. He isn't ready. Why? Brian Flores says nothing ever. Ever. He knew what he was saying. He knew exactly what he was saying. And at the time, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, everyone knows he's going to redshirt this year. I mean, why wouldn't he? It's crazy. Dude, the guy's coming off a hip surgery that no one's ever come back from that injury. Somebody please tell me anybody who's come back to play on a professional level after hip surgery like that. I mean, Bo Jackson's injury was less on the grade of destruction of the hip than Tua's. Tua had a series of injuries on his ankles, maybe knee, 6 or 7 of them. I mean, this guy just needed to chillax. He needed to take a year off, recoup, learn, whatever. Everyone figured he'd red shirt. All of a sudden, after this, if he was my son, boom, Tua was starting. Now, in retrospect, I mean, it's like, it feels like Brian Flores is like one of those people trapped in the basement. And he's like blowing on the glass going, shh, help me. This is not what I want to be. Because when we unpack the starting of Tua, and this is not about the kid, this is about the reality. Think about it. All right? I'm just going to deal in this one moment. Brian Flores says, the man who says what he says and does what he does, comes out and says this 2 weeks later, Tua is starting. And we find out 3 statements in the following year. First, Fitzpatrick says, I was taken back. My heart was broke. I thought this was my team. I was surprised that Tua was starting. Take that as sour grapes. Throw that away. Fitzpatrick was just jealous that Tua was getting his job. Sour grapes. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But now the next one, Gailey came out and said, I was surprised that Tua was starting. I was taken back. I was told he was starting. That was a big one. It hit me. What? If you're going to decide to make a quarterback change, who would you, as the head coach, ask to see if this was wise? You'd ask the offensive coordinator, who would then go to his staff, position coaches, and they would come together and we would talk about it and discuss it. But ultimately, the offensive coordinator would have to be in the chain of command to make this decision. And considering Shane Gailey has forgotten more than Brian Flores or anybody at that point in the organization about offense, you figure he would have been like consulted, notified. He wouldn't have been told. He wouldn't be sitting there making a game plan for Fitzpatrick, so-and-so. Tua's starting this week. What? Think about Shane Gailey. Think about Shane Gailey. He came back. He wants to win. He knows, as Tua said, this third quote, in the offseason, Tua didn't know the playbook. Gailey knows Tua doesn't know the playbook. Flores knows Tua doesn't know the playbook. Fitzpatrick knows Tua doesn't know the playbook. The team knows that Tua doesn't know the playbook. He does not give him the best chance to win. They also know the kid's probably not fully healthy. I did hours of tape showing this kid he wasn't healthy last year. So if he wasn't healthy last year, didn't know the playbook, Flores has shown if he was going to tank, he'd have done it in 2019. He comes out and he's saying he gives us the best chance to win. Who's going to give the best chance to win? Why 2 weeks earlier, the man who says nothing ever would say, if he was my son, I wouldn't have him start. So now Flores has got to start him and tell everybody in the media and tell everybody on the team he gives us the best chance to win. But if he gave us the best chance to win, he would know the playbook, he'd be healthy, the offensive coordinator would be involved in it, and it wouldn't be a shock and a surprise. So then, unfortunately, a lot of Dolphin fans, they don't know the situation. Looks like sour grapes with Gailey. He was friends with Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick was sour grapes. You know, both Gailey and Fitzpatrick are trying to stick it to Tua, not given the full playbook, when we know that wasn't the case now. So Gailey came out of retirement to coach in the den of snakes with his man to get one last ride, and he's disrespected, not even consulted on the transition, told, and then he's got to call plays where there's no success because he's got a young rookie who's not healthy and doesn't know the playbook, and people are saying, Gailey's scum, he's just trying to stick it to him. Gailey must have been losing his mind, like, I can't believe this. They got me. They got me. Everybody probably told him, don't go there. It's all right. They got me. So, now we all know the deal. Dolphins. It's not Tua's fault. It's not Tua's fault. But who would have the power to put him in? Who would have the power to not consult with the offensive coordinator? It would only be the coach, the GM, or the owner. Okay, those are the three players in this Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story. Let's play detective. Okay, Will Ross, who came out publicly looking beaten, I'm out of football operations. The only thing he says is, I like Tua, but I'm worried about his injury history. Is he going to force him in early? When they're succeeding, they're winning. He's going to come and say, all right, let's stop all this winning now. Let's put in the guy who's got injury history and put him in now. The guys said, I'm out of football. I mean, possible, but highly doubt it. Would Brian Flores, who had a chance to tank to get Burrow or get a top pick and trade back a little bit and still get 2 extra picks, would he decide to put in the lesser option after 2 weeks earlier of never saying anything that I've ever heard for him to come out and say, if I was his father, I wouldn't start him, he's not ready? Doesn't seem that way. The only person who stood to gain, I do feel like Sherlock Holmes, the only person would be who? Chris Grier. Now, Chris Grier rebuffed the trade back taken of Jackson. He brought in Fitzpatrick, which screwed the tank. The owner said, I'm worried about injury history here. I want Burrow. And Tua is not healthy right now. And then Marino, the face of the franchise. I mean, if you think that Ross is like starstruck with Bill Parcells, what it must be like to be Dan Marino. I mean, he works with Dan Marino every day. If I was Ross, I'd be paying $50K every single day. Dan, let's go have lunch, talk. I want to hear you talk. You know what I'm saying? So now Grier is there with Tua being injured, probably not knowing the playbook, which he knows. Herbert's taken off. Burrow's taken off. He missed it with Jackson. Wilkins is playing average. Austin Jackson is, okay. Got to put him in. Got to get something. Got to see something. I got to get, hey, I was right. Doesn't seem like anybody else. So that was the pivotal moment. Putting in Tua, whoever did it, stepped all over Gailey, squashed him, prominent head coach, came to an organization full of snakes, known to stick it to people and betray each other, and he got betrayed. And you know how I know it? Is because Brian Flores says, I expect all my coaches to return. And then Gailey says, I'm out, I retire. And they ship out Fitzpatrick. Finally, Tua comes out and says, I really didn't know the playbook. So what is Brian Flores to do for offensive coordinator? Nobody trusts you. Nobody's coming here. And he stuck it to Sperano, to Ross. Somebody stuck it to Gailey big time. Made the guy was ridiculed and mocked. Called this and that. Overstepped his bounds to look, if you're going to make a call, if you got the balls to put in a quarterback without consulting a man, your offensive coordinator, much less a man like Gailey, you better be right, and you were wrong, dead wrong. Gailey retires. Everybody knows, I'm never working there. So what does Flores to do? He started building a little momentum. He had his guppies. No one's going to come back here. No one's going to coach. So he's got to grab, Studdard and Godsey. We're going to dual head coach because nobody else is coming here. Everybody knows that Gailey was screwed. Who's coming here now? Especially when you see Tua play the way he played. You're like, is this kid ever going to be healthy? Who's going to come here with the den of snakes? Flores, who's fired a bunch of offensive line coaches. Gailey, who's been screwed over. Nobody's coming here. This is what you got. You had to go to the bottom of the barrel, the F squad, and put together an offensive staff. Herbert's got the rookie of the year. Right now, if this thing goes south, Brian Flores will find a job as a coach. Because even if he was involved in picking players, he's going to be hired as a coach. He's done a great job as a coach, aside from the little firings here or there. But overall, this guy has shown he can take people off the streets, nobodies, and get them to win, coach them up. He's been disciplined. Look how disciplined his team is. But Chris Grier, if this goes south, with all those picks, all that power, all the statements of, I made this pick, and I'm in charge, And he's never going to get a job even remotely like this. He'll be in the back office or some kind of staff. But right now, you're not getting any coaches here. This is what you got. Got a pretty good defensive staff that Flores was able to build up because he understands defense. But he got lucky to get Gailey. And then when he got rid of O'Shea, that was a good opportunity there. But he upgraded because of the experience. Gailey did so much. You could see now the difference between Gailey, who supposedly sucked, and these guys who have no experience. You could see with the protections way worse, production's way worse. I mean, they were doing really well with Fitzpatrick. Two, maybe this year, if he hadn't started, he wouldn't have the stigma over him. Maybe he would have healed. Maybe he could have got the coaching right with Gailey, and then they get him ready to take off. But that's not what happened. They forced him in there, put the pressure on. The weight of the world is on them, and they got these two guys. Flores has the staff that he has, and it's not going to change. And no one's going to come here again. Not as long as Chris Grier's here. So maybe Flores put two in. Maybe he just said that at random. But the bottom line is, this is not a place where coaches want to come. And we have what we have. Hopefully, these coaches can get coached up. Hopefully, this can turn. But the Ross effect, and I don't blame Chris Grier. I think Chris Grier is a very nice guy. But he was raised in an environment that's like this, desperation, cutthroat. And he made the move, maybe, or Flores, or Ross. Your guess is as good as mine, but I believe it's definitely Chris Grier. But in the end, no one wants to work here. Brian Flores can handle the defense. He understands that. He's very good at that. He understands discipline. He understands lack of turnovers. But he can't bring nothing to the offense. So this is what we got, guys. This is my little story. I hope you enjoyed. This is the history. Conjecture as far as who put two in. But clearly, this was a faux pas of some reason. Gailey was furious and to be overrode. And now we are a pariah once again, it appears. Anyway, let me hear your thoughts. I know it was a little bit of a long one. A lot of people were saying Ross is the bad guy. Some people were saying Chris Grier is the bad guy. Some people were saying Flores is the bad guy. We won't really know, I don't think. But I want to hear your thoughts. Again, hope you enjoyed. This is a little different take. I'll go back to the shorter version, try to talk a little faster, put some more tape. And subscribes and comments and subscribes and likes. They help us with the analytics. I really appreciate that. Helps us with the Google overlords to keep us in business. And Ace Barrett, our sponsor. They're the best sponsors in the world. They want to let you know with their world-class software. You can get in on the action with your friends, family, coworkers, anyone you know with their world-class software. They're the best. They are. You guys and them keep us in business. Keep me talking football. I hope you enjoyed this. A little off, a little different. I'll go back to the normal after this. So anyway, this is Curtis. Thank you. Catch you next time and be well.